Eleanor pressed her body against the cold wall. The baby moved, and in that instant she knew something was wrong. Her breath came short. Not from the stairs. She'd taken the elevator. Not from the cold February air seeping through the government building's cracked windows. It was something else. A feeling that had been growing for weeks, quiet and persistent, like water rising in a locked room. 8 months pregnant. Alone. Standing in a hallway that smelled of disinfectant and old coffee. Nobody had returned her calls in 3 days. Not her sister in Ohio. Not the 2 friends from college who'd promised to visit. Not even the neighbor who'd offered to drive her to appointments. Everyone was busy. Everyone had their own lives. And Eleanor understood. She really did. But understanding didn't make the silence any easier. The caseworker had been kind. That was something. A tired woman with tired, gentle eyes who spoke slowly, clearly, making sure Eleanor understood each form. Housing assistance, medical vouchers, food stamps, words that felt heavy in Eleanor's mouth when she had to say them out loud. You're doing what you need to do, the caseworker had said. That's not weakness. That's survival. Eleanor wanted to believe her. The elevator descended. 6 floors. 5. 4. Eleanor closed her eyes and counted, feeling the baby shift inside her swollen belly. Too much fluid, the doctors said. A rare complication they were monitoring closely. That phrase again. Monitoring. Watching. Waiting for something to go wrong while hoping it wouldn't. Richard had missed that appointment. And the one before. And the one before that. Her ex-husband, though the divorce wasn't final yet, had become a ghost. Present in paperwork only. He'd stopped coming home in November. Stopped answering questions in December. By January, he was just gone. Like she and the baby were a problem that would solve itself if he disappeared long enough. The elevator doors opened. Through the glass entrance, Eleanor could see the courtyard. Gray concrete, struggling trees. Dead leaves pushed by. February wind. That's when she saw him. Richard stood near the entrance, pacing, tall, tense, his hands moving in sharp, jerky motions, talking to himself or maybe on the phone. She couldn't tell from this distance. Eleanor's heart jumped. For one brief moment, something like hope flickered. Maybe he'd come to apologize, to say he wanted to be part of their child's life, to explain the silence. But the way he moved was wrong. His head snapped from side to side. Watching. Searching. His body coiled tight like a spring about to break. Then he turned and looked directly at the building entrance. His eyes found hers through the glass. Eleanor couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. In that split second, she saw something in his face she'd never seen before. Not the quiet man she'd married. Not the distant stranger he'd become. Someone else entirely. Richard started walking toward the doors. Fast. His right hand reached into his jacket pocket. Eleanor stumbled backward, her hand instinctively covering her belly. "Ma'am?" A security guard appeared beside her. Older man, gray hair, concerned eyes. "You okay?" Eleanor couldn't speak. She just pointed toward the entrance where Richard was now. Pushing through the doors. The guard's expression changed instantly. Professional. Alert. He stepped between Eleanor and her ex-husband. Richard stopped. His eyes locked on Eleanor again. And Eleanor understood with perfect clarity that she had never truly known this man at all. "Ma'am?" The guard said quietly, urgently. "That man is wanted. Federal charges." Eleanor felt the baby kick hard. The guard continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "You need to leave. Now." The words crashed over her like ice water. Federal charges? What had Richard done? What had been hiding behind those quiet dinners and polite conversations? Behind the man who'd kissed her forehead and asked about her day? "Back door," the guard said, already speaking into his radio. "Police unit on Maple Street, go." Eleanor's feet moved before her mind caught up. Through corridors, past startled office workers, toward the back exit. Her heart pounding, baby kicking, whole world shrinking to this single moment of escape. If this story already feels familiar, if you've ever trusted someone who wasn't who they claimed to be, subscribe now. Some truths only reveal themselves when it's almost too late. Eleanor pushed through the back door into cold air. She didn't look back. But weeks later, long after that day, after the police questions, after moving to a new address nobody knew, Eleanor would remember something else about that moment in the courtyard. The look in Richard's eyes hadn't been anger. It had been fear, and somehow that was worse, because it meant he'd been running from something all along. Something bigger than her, bigger than their marriage, bigger than the baby she carried. She just didn't know what it was yet. That night, Eleanor slept in her clothes, curtains closed, door locked, phone within reach. The baby moved constantly as if sensing her fear, and in the darkness Eleanor made a promise. Whatever Richard had been hiding, whatever was coming next, her child would never know that life, would never feel this fear, even if it meant disappearing completely. The police. Officer's voice was flat, professional, empty of emotion. Mrs. Whitman, when did you last see your husband? Eleanor sat in the small interview room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Her hands rested on her swollen belly. The baby hadn't stopped moving since the courtyard. 3 weeks ago, she said quietly. Maybe 4. The officer, a woman in her 50s with tired eyes, wrote something in her notebook. She didn't look up. And before that? Eleanor tried to remember. The days blurred together now. He came home for dinner once in January. Stayed maybe an hour, then he left. Did he say where he was going? No. The officer's pen paused. Did he ever? Eleanor shook her head, and in that silence, she realized how long she'd been living with a stranger. The officer closed her notebook, leaned forward slightly. Mrs. Whitman, your husband has been under federal investigation for 18 months. Eleanor's breath caught. 18 months. That was before the pregnancy, before the silence, before everything fell apart. For what? Eleanor whispered. The officer's expression didn't change. I can't discuss details of an ongoing investigation. Eleanor felt something cold settle in her chest. But you're telling me to be careful. It wasn't a question. The officer stood, handed Eleanor a card with a phone number written in blue ink. If he contacts you, call immediately. Don't engage. Don't meet him anywhere private. Eleanor took the card with shaking hands. Is dangerous? The officer paused at the door. We believe he's desperate, and desperate people make unpredictable choices. Then she was gone. Eleanor sat alone in the empty room, the card heavy in her palm, wondering how many other women had sat in this exact chair asking the same question. 2 days out. Later, Eleanor moved. Not far, she couldn't afford far, but to a different apartment complex across town. Ground floor unit with a window facing the parking lot. She kept the curtains closed anyway. The landlord, an older man with kind eyes, didn't ask questions when she paid 3 months in advance, with money borrowed from a distant cousin. Just handed her the keys and said, You need anything, you knock on my door. Eleanor unpacked in silence. Box after box of a life she no longer recognized. Wedding photos she couldn't bear to look at, but couldn't throw away. Baby clothes she'd bought. Alone. A crib still in its packaging. She assembled the crib that night, working slowly, carefully, following instructions that seemed written in a foreign language. Her back ached. Her feet were swollen. But she needed to finish something. To create one space in this world that felt safe. At midnight, she stood back and looked at it. Small. Simple. Ready. And for the first time in months, Eleanor felt something that might have been hope. The baby kicked hard, as if in agreement. But 3 floors above her, in an apartment she didn't know existed, someone was watching. Eleanor's doctor. Appointments became a ritual of careful timing. She scheduled them for mid-morning when the waiting room was fullest. Arrived early, sat near the nurse's station where people could see her, never went to the parking garage alone. Dr. Martinez, a soft-spoken woman in her 60s, noticed the change. You're anxious, she said gently during the exam. More than before? Eleanor stared at the ceiling. I'm fine. Eleanor. Something in the doctor's voice made Eleanor's throat tighten. The stress isn't good for you or the baby. Your blood pressure is elevated. The fluid retention is worse. Eleanor closed her eyes. I know. Is there someone who can stay with you? Family? Friends? Eleanor thought of the unreturned phone calls, the empty promises, the silence that had grown so familiar she'd almost stopped noticing it. No, she said quietly. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Then she wrote something on her prescription pad, tore it off, and handed it to Eleanor. But it wasn't a prescription. It was a phone number with a note. Support group. Thursdays at 7. You don't have to go through this alone. Eleanor folded the paper carefully and put it in her pocket. She never called the number, but she kept the paper. March arrived with cold rain and gray skies. Eleanor established new routines. Grocery shopping on Tuesday mornings when the store was quiet. Laundry in her apartment, never the basement. Walks around the block only during daylight, always the same route. She learned to recognize cars, license plates, faces. The neighbors mostly ignored her, which was fine. Better than fine. Invisibility felt like safety now. But on a Thursday evening, one of those rare moments when the rain stopped and the sky cleared, Eleanor made a mistake. She went to the mailbox. After dark. The parking lot was empty, streetlights casting long shadows. Eleanor moved quickly, keys gripped between her fingers the way that police officer had taught her in a pamphlet she'd been given. She opened her mailbox. Bills. Advertisements. Nothing important. Then she heard footsteps. Behind her. Eleanor froze. The footsteps stopped. She turned slowly, heart pounding so hard she could hear it. A man stood near the building entrance. Tall. Dark jacket. Face hidden in shadow. He wasn't moving. Just standing there. Watching. Eleanor's hand instinctively went to her belly. The man took one step forward. Eleanor's voice came out stronger than she felt. Can I help you? The man tilted his head slightly. Eleanor? Her blood turned to ice. He knew her name. Who are you? She demanded, backing toward her apartment door. The man raised his hands, palms out. I'm not here to hurt you. I just need to talk. About what? About Richard. Eleanor's key was in her hand now, ready. I don't know where he is. I know, the man said quietly. That's why I'm here. To warn you. The word hung in the cold air between them. Warn. Eleanor's apartment door was 5 steps away. She could make it. Lock it. Call the police. But something in the man's voice stopped her. Not threat. Fear. Who are you? Eleanor asked again. The man stepped into the light, and Eleanor recognized him. Marcus Chen, Richard's old college roommate. Eleanor hadn't seen him in years, not since the wedding maybe. A quiet man with nervous energy who'd always seemed uncomfortable at social gatherings. Now he stood in her parking lot, hands still raised, looking even more nervous than she remembered. Marcus? Eleanor's voice cracked. What are you doing here? I'm sorry, he said quickly. I know this looks bad, coming here at night, but I couldn't risk being seen during the day. Eleanor's grip tightened on her keys. Seen by who? Marcus glanced over his shoulder at the empty parking lot. Can we talk inside? Please, just 5 minutes. Every instinct screamed no, but something in his expression, genuine fear, not deception, made her hesitate. You stay where I can see you, Eleanor said firmly. And the door stays open. Marcus nodded quickly. Whatever makes you comfortable. Eleanor unlocked her apartment, positioning herself so she could run if needed. Marcus stayed in the doorway, exactly as promised, hands visible. Richard's in trouble, Marcus began. Bad trouble. The police told me. Federal investigation. Marcus shook his head. It's worse than that. The people he stole from, they're not waiting for federal court. Eleanor felt the baby kick hard. What? People? Investment clients, wealthy ones. Richard was running a scheme, taking their money, promising returns, moving it between accounts. Marcus's voice dropped. He lost everything, millions, and some of those clients don't believe in legal solutions. The words settled over Eleanor like ice. Water. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Marcus looked at his feet. I found out 6 months ago. He asked me to help him hide assets. I said no. We haven't spoken since. Then why are you here now? Marcus met her eyes. Because someone came to my office yesterday asking questions about you. Eleanor's breath stopped. About me? They think you know where Richard is. Or where he hid the money. Marcus stepped closer, his voice urgent. Eleanor, these aren't people who care that you're pregnant or that you haven't seen him. They just want their money back. Eleanor's legs felt weak. She gripped the doorframe for support. I don't know anything. Richard didn't tell me anything. I believe you, Marcus said, but they won't. The baby moved again, harder this time, and Eleanor winced. Marcus noticed. Are you okay? I'm fine, Eleanor lied. What am I supposed to do? Marcus pulled a folded paper from his jacket. This is a lawyer. Criminal defense. She's expensive, but she's good. If anyone contacts you, police, investigators, anyone, you call her first. Eleanor took the paper with trembling hands. And Eleanor? Marcus's voice was barely above a whisper. Be careful who you trust. Richard had partners, people who helped him. Some of them are still out there. Before Eleanor could ask what that meant, Marcus was gone, disappeared into the darkness like he'd never been there at all. Eleanor locked the door with shaking hands, checked it twice, then pulled. Then, every curtain closed and sat in the dark apartment trying to breathe. The lawyer's number sat on her coffee table. She didn't call, not yet, but she memorized the name. The following week, Eleanor's routine fractured. Small things at first. Her mail arrived opened, taped shut again. Someone left a shopping cart blocking her parking space. Twice. A car with tinted windows idled near the building entrance for hours, then disappeared. Maybe coincidence. Maybe not. Eleanor stopped going out unless absolutely necessary. She had groceries delivered, skipped her doctor's appointment and rescheduled. By phone. Spent her days watching the parking lot through a gap in the curtains. The landlord knocked on her door one evening. You doing okay, Mrs. Whitman? Haven't seen you around much. Eleanor opened the door just enough to see him. I'm fine. Just tired. The pregnancy. He nodded, but his eyes showed concern. You need anything, you let me know, I mean that. Thank you. As he turned to leave, he paused. Oh, and someone was asking about you yesterday. Said he was your brother. Eleanor's blood went cold. What did he look like? Tall guy, 40s maybe. Said he wanted to surprise you. Eleanor didn't have a brother. What did you tell him? Nothing, the landlord said firmly. I don't give out tenant information. Told him to leave his number and I'd pass it along. He didn't. Eleanor's hands were shaking. If he comes back, I'll call the police, the landlord said, and you. And after he left, Eleanor sat on the floor with her back against the door, feeling the baby move inside her, wondering how long she could keep running from people she couldn't see. That night, Eleanor called the lawyer. The woman who answered had a voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Professional. Direct. No wasted words. Ms. Whitman, Marcus Chen said you might call. Eleanor was surprised. He told you about me. He told me you might need protection. Legal protection. A pause. Are you in immediate danger? I don't know, Eleanor admitted. People are watching me, asking questions. I don't know what they want. They want leverage, the lawyer said bluntly. Your husband stole a lot of money from very angry people. You're the easiest way to find him. But I don't know where he is. That doesn't matter to them. The lawyer's tone softened slightly. Ms. Whitman, I need to ask you something. Has anyone offered you money? Asked you to deliver a message, anything like that? No. Good. If they do, you say no, immediately, and you call me. These people start small. Favors, payments, simple requests. Then they own you. Eleanor felt sick. How do I make this stop? You can't, the lawyer said simply. Not until Richard is found or the money is recovered. But you can protect yourself. Stay visible. Keep records of every interaction. Don't meet anyone alone. Eleanor closed her eyes. For how long? As long as it takes. The call ended. Eleanor sat in the darkness of her apartment, one hand on her belly, feeling the baby's movements slow as night deepened. She thought about Richard, the man she'd married, the quiet dinners, the gentle morning routines. Had any of it been real? Or had she been sleeping next to a stranger all along? A week later, the pain started. Not labor. Not yet. But something wrong. Sharp cramps that took her breath away, the baby moving less, her body swelling worse. Eleanor called Dr. Martinez. Come in immediately, the doctor said, her voice tight with concern. Don't drive yourself. Call an ambulance. But Eleanor didn't want sirens, didn't want attention, didn't want to be visible. She called a taxi instead. The driver, an older woman with kind eyes, helped her into the back seat and drove carefully through rain-slicked streets. First baby? The driver asked gently. Eleanor nodded, unable to speak through the pain. You're going to be fine, honey. Women have been doing this for thousands of years. Eleanor wanted to believe her. But as the hospital came into view, another contraction hit. Harder this time. Different. And Eleanor knew with terrible certainty that something was very wrong. The emergency room. Doors opened with a mechanical hiss. Eleanor couldn't walk anymore. A nurse appeared with a wheelchair, moving quickly, asking questions Eleanor barely heard through the pain. How far along? 34 weeks, Eleanor gasped. Previous complications? Fluid retention, severe. The nurse's expression tightened. She pushed faster. They wheeled Eleanor past waiting families, crying children, fluorescent lights that hurt her eyes. Everything blurred together. Sounds, colors, fear. Another contraction hit. Eleanor gripped the wheelchair arm so hard her knuckles went white. We're almost there, the nurse said. Stay with me. They turned a corner into the maternity ward. Dr. Martinez was already there, scrubbing her hands, her face serious. Get her on the monitor, she ordered. Now. Hands lifted Eleanor onto the bed. Cold gel on her belly. The rhythmic sound of the babies. Heartbeat filled the room. Fast, irregular, distressed. Dr. Martinez studied the monitor screen, her jaw tight. Eleanor, listen to me carefully. Your baby is in distress. We need to deliver tonight. Eleanor's vision swam. It's too early. 34 weeks is viable, but if we wait, Dr. Martinez, didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Eleanor understood. Prep for emergency cesarean, Dr. Martinez told the nurses. Then to Eleanor, you're going to be okay, both of you. But her eyes told a different story. As they wheeled Eleanor toward the operating room, she saw someone standing in the hallway. A man in a dark suit, watching. Their eyes met for just a second before the doors closed between them. And Eleanor realized with ice-cold certainty she'd seen that face before. In the parking lot of her building. The surgery took 43 minutes. Eleanor was awake but numb, separated from her own body by a blue surgical curtain. She could hear voices, instruments, the steady beep of monitors. Dr. Martinez's voice cut through. Almost there. Just a little more. Then silence. Terrible, stretching silence. Eleanor tried to lift her head. Why isn't he crying? No one answered. The silence stretched longer. Eleanor's heart pounded. Please, why isn't he crying? Then, finally, a sound. Weak at first, then stronger. A baby's cry. Eleanor's tears came instantly. Relief so overwhelming she couldn't breathe. It's a boy, Dr. Martinez said softly. Small, but fighting. They brought him to Eleanor for just a moment. Tiny, pink, eyes squeezed shut. A little fist waving at the unfamiliar world. Hello, Eleanor whispered. Then they took him away to the NICU. and Eleanor was alone again. Recovery was a blur of pain, medication, and exhaustion. Eleanor woke in a private room, everything aching. A nurse checked her vitals, explained the surgery went well, told her the baby was stable but needed monitoring. "Can I see him?" Eleanor asked. "Soon. You need to rest first." Eleanor drifted in and out of consciousness. When she woke again, it was dark outside. The hospital was quiet. Just the hum of machines and distant footsteps in the hallway. Someone knocked softly on her door. "Come in," Eleanor said groggily. But it wasn't a nurse. The man in the dark suit stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Eleanor's breath caught. She reached for the call button. "Don't," the man said calmly. "I'm not here to hurt you." Eleanor's finger hovered over the button. "Then why are you here?" The man pulled a chair close to her bed and sat down. Up close, he looked older than she'd thought. Late 50s, gray at his temples, tired eyes. "My name is Detective Warren, FBI." He showed her a badge. "I've been investigating your husband for 2 years." Eleanor's hand dropped from the call button. "You should have identified yourself in the hallway." "I couldn't. Not there." Warren's voice was low. "Mrs. Whitman, you're being watched, not by us, by people your husband stole from." Eleanor felt cold despite the warm hospital room. "I know, someone already warned me." Warren's expression shifted. "Who?" "Marcus Chen." Warren was quiet for a long moment. "When?" "A week ago, maybe more. Time's been difficult." Warren leaned forward. "Mrs. Whitman, Marcus Chen died 3 days ago. Car accident, single vehicle, no witnesses." The words didn't make sense at first. Then they did. And Eleanor understood that everything was worse than she'd imagined. "It wasn't an accident," she whispered. Warren shook his head slowly. "We don't think so." Eleanor's hands trembled. "They killed him because he talked to me. We believe he knew where Richard hid some of the money. They questioned him. He refused to talk." Warren's voice was gentle but firm. "Then he came to warn you. And 2 days later, he was dead." Eleanor thought of Marcus standing in her doorway, hands raised, genuine fear in his eyes. He'd known he was in danger. He came anyway. "Why are you telling me this?" Eleanor asked. "Because I need your help." Eleanor almost laughed. "I don't know anything. Richard didn't tell me anything. I can't help you." Warren pulled an envelope from his jacket. 3 days before Marcus died, he mailed this to our office. It arrived this morning. He handed Eleanor the envelope. Her name was written on the front in Marcus's handwriting. With shaking hands, Eleanor opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with an address and a note. "Eleanor, if anything happens to me, go here alone. Tell no one. It's the only way to end this. I'm sorry. M." Eleanor stared at the address. Somewhere in Vermont, a place she'd never heard of. "What is this?" she asked. "We don't know," Warren admitted. "We were hoping you might." Eleanor shook her head. "I've never seen this address before." Warren was quiet, studying her face. "Mrs. Whitman, Marcus died protecting something. If we don't find out what, more people will die, including possibly you." The weight of his words settled over her like a stone. "I just had a baby," Eleanor said quietly. "He's in the NICU. I know," Warren interrupted. "I'm not asking you to go now. But eventually, we'll need to know what Marcus was protecting." He stood to leave, then paused at the door. "Mrs. Whitman, one more thing. Your son, keep him close. Don't let anyone you don't absolutely trust near him. Not visitors, not distant relatives. No one." Eleanor's throat tightened. "You think they'd hurt a baby?" Warren's expression was grim. "I think desperate people do desperate things. And right now, your son is the only leverage they have left." Then he was gone. Eleanor sat alone in the dark hospital room, holding the envelope with the mysterious address, feeling her world shrink to a single terrifying truth. She couldn't protect her son by hiding anymore. She had to find out what Richard had done, and what Marcus had died protecting. 2 days later, Eleanor held her son for The first time without wires and tubes between them. He was so small, so fragile, perfect fingers, tiny nose, eyes that looked at her with what might have been recognition. "I'm your mom," Eleanor whispered, "and I promise, you'll be safe." But even as she said the words, she knew keeping that promise might cost everything. The nurse came to take him back to the NICU for monitoring. Eleanor watched through the window as they placed him in the incubator, and she didn't notice the man in the hallway, watching, taking photos of her son. Eleanor saw him through the NICU window, a man with a camera phone, pointing it at her son. She was on her feet before thinking, pain shooting through her healing incision. She stumbled into the hallway, but he was already gone. Just empty corridor and the smell of antiseptic. A nurse appeared. "Mrs. Whitman, you shouldn't be walking yet." "There was a man," Eleanor gasped, "taking pictures of my baby." The nurse's expression shifted. "What did he look like?" "Tall, dark jacket. I didn't see his face." The nurse helped Eleanor back to her room and immediately called security. 2 guards arrived within minutes, asked questions, checked cameras, promised to review footage. But Eleanor knew what they'd find. Nothing. These people were professionals. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. Every sound in the hallway made her jump. Every footstep, every door opening. She kept the curtain pulled back so she could see the NICU. Entrance. Her son slept peacefully in his incubator, unaware of the danger circling. Eleanor had named him Thomas, after her grandfather. A man who'd survived the depression by being careful, by trusting no one, by always having an exit plan. She understood now why he'd lived that way. At 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Eleanor stared at it, heart pounding. It buzzed again. She answered but didn't speak. A man's voice came through, calm, almost friendly. "Eleanor Whitman? Who is this?" "A friend. Someone who wants to help you." "I don't need help. Your son is beautiful. Thomas, right? Strong name." Eleanor's blood turned to ice. The man continued, his voice still pleasant. 4 pounds, 6 ounces. Born at 11:47 p.m. Dark hair like his father. He's in incubator 3 just to the left of the nurse's station. Eleanor couldn't breathe. "How do you... We know everything, Eleanor. Where you live, where you shop, which doctor you see. We know you're alone, scared, broke." Eleanor's hand trembled so hard she almost dropped the phone. "What do you want?" "Just information, simple questions. Where did Richard go? Where's the money?" "I don't know." The man sighed. "That's what Marcus said too, right before his accident." The threat was clear. Eleanor's voice came out stronger than she felt. "If you hurt my son..." "We don't want to hurt anyone," the man interrupted. "We just want what's ours. Help us get it back, and this all goes away. You and Thomas can have a normal life." "I told you I don't know anything." Silence on the other end. Then, "Marcus left you something, an address. The FBI showed it to you." Eleanor's stomach dropped. How did they know about that? "I don't know what that address means," Eleanor said. "Then find out." The line went dead. Eleanor sat in the dark hospital room, shaking, realizing that nowhere was safe anymore, not even here. The next morning, Detective Warren returned. Eleanor told him about the call, every word, every threat. Warren's jaw tightened. "They're escalating. That's bad." "Bad?" Eleanor's voice cracked. "They know where my son sleeps. They photographed him." "That's not bad. That's terrifying." Warren nodded. "I know. We're going to add security. Plainclothes officers outside the NICU." "For how long?" Warren didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. Police protection couldn't last forever. Eventually she'd go home. Be alone. Vulnerable. "What about the address Marcus gave me?" Eleanor asked quietly. Warren pulled out a folder. "We checked it out. It's a storage facility in rural Vermont, registered to a shell company. We can't get a warrant without probable cause." "So, Go anyway. If we do and find nothing, we've tipped them off. They'll move whatever's there. Warren leaned forward. But if you went, as Marcus's friend, following up on something he mentioned, no one would question it. Eleanor stared at him. You want me to break into a storage unit? I want you to visit it, look around, see what Marcus wanted you to find. I have a newborn in the NICU. I know. Warren's voice was gentle. That's why we need to end this quickly, before they get more desperate. Eleanor looked through her window toward the NICU. Thomas was sleeping, tiny chest rising and falling, completely unaware that his life was already in danger. When would I go? Eleanor asked. Soon. This week, if possible. While they're still watching you here, not expecting you to move. Eleanor closed her eyes. She'd just had surgery. Her son was premature. Every instinct screamed to stay, and to. Here, keep him close, never let him out of sight. But another instinct, deeper, fiercer, whispered something else. The only way to protect him was to end the threat. I'll think about it, Eleanor said. Warren nodded and left, but Eleanor had already decided. 3 days later, Eleanor was discharged. Thomas had to stay longer. The doctors said another week, maybe 2. His lungs needed to strengthen, his weight needed to increase. Eleanor hated leaving him, but the nurses were kind. Security was watching, and every hour she stayed made her more visible, more predictable. The taxi dropped her at her apartment. Everything looked the same, but it felt different now, contaminated by the knowledge that someone had been watching, waiting. Eleanor checked every room, every closet, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. She locked the door, both locks, then pushed a chair against it, for good measure. That night she pulled out the envelope Marcus had given her. The Vermont address stared back at her. Storage Solutions, Unit 247, Route 7, Montpelier. What had Marcus hidden there? Money? Evidence? Something else? Eleanor folded the paper carefully and put it in her pocket. Tomorrow she'd call Detective Warren, tell him she'd go. But tonight she needed to rest. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Thomas in his incubator, and about Richard, wherever he was. Had he known what he was bringing into their lives? Had he cared? Or had she and Thomas been collateral damage from the start? Eleanor drifted into uneasy sleep and dreamed of locked storage units and shadows that had faces she couldn't see. The phone woke her at dawn. Unknown number again. Eleanor's heart raced as she answered. What? A different voice this time. Younger, less polite. You have 72 hours. For what? To give us the location, the money, whatever Marcus told you. He didn't tell me anything. Then figure it out. The voice hardened. 72 hours, Eleanor, or we start making things difficult. You're already making things difficult. The man laughed, cold, empty. No, we've been patient, but patience has limits. The line went dead. Eleanor sat in the darkness of her bedroom, counting hours. 72, 3 days. Then what? She called Detective Warren at 6 a.m. He answered on the first ring. Whitman? I'll go to Vermont. Today. Now. Whatever it takes. Are you sure? Eleanor thought of Thomas. Small, fragile, innocent. I'm sure. Okay. Warren's voice shifted into professional mode. Pack light, tell no one. I'll have an agent meet you at the facility. No agents, Eleanor said firmly. Marcus said to come alone. If someone's with me, whoever's watching will know. Warren was quiet. Eleanor, that's not safe. Nothing about this is safe. Eleanor's voice was steady now, determined. But Marcus died protecting whatever's there. I owe him this much. I go alone. Another pause. Then, okay. But you wear a wire. And you check in every hour. Fine. Eleanor? Warren's voice softened. Be careful. These people have already killed once. They won't hesitate to do it again. Eleanor hung up and started packing. Just one bag, cash only, no credit cards that could be traced. She looked around her apartment last time. The crib she'd assembled. The baby clothes folded and waiting. A life she'd imagined but never lived. Then she walked out the door. Toward Vermont. Toward answers. Toward whatever Marcus had died protecting. And toward a truth that would change everything. The bus station smelled like coffee and diesel fuel. Eleanor bought a ticket to Montpelier with cash. The woman behind the counter barely looked at her. Just took the money and slid the ticket across. No questions, no records. Exactly what Eleanor needed. The bus left at 7:15 a.m. Eleanor chose a seat in the back, near the emergency exit. Old habits from a life she'd never lived but somehow understood now. Always have an escape route. The bus pulled out of the station as the sun rose. Eleanor watched her city disappear through the dirty window. Every mile felt like betrayal. She was leaving Thomas behind. Even if it was to protect him, it felt wrong. Mothers didn't leave their newborns. They stayed. They fought. They sacrificed everything. But what if leaving was the sacrifice? Eleanor closed her eyes and tried not to think about the tiny body in the incubator, the way his fingers had curled around hers, the sound of his breathing through the monitors. She'd be back in 2 days, maybe less, just long enough to find whatever Marcus had hidden. Then this would be over. The bus rolled north through gray landscape and bare trees. Eleanor tried to sleep but couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the man with the camera, heard the voice on the phone counting down hours, 72 hours, now 68. A woman sitting across the aisle offered Eleanor a granola bar. "You look like you need it, honey," she said kindly. "When's your baby due?" Eleanor touched her still swollen belly. "He was born last week. Premature." The woman's expression softened. "Oh, sweetheart. And you're traveling? Should you be up and about?" Eleanor managed to smile. "Doctor said it's fine, just visiting family." The lie came easily now. Too easily. The woman nodded and went back to her magazine. Eleanor stared out the window and wondered who she was becoming. The bus stopped in a small town 2 hours north. 15-minute break. Eleanor got off to stretch her legs and check her phone. 3 missed calls from the hospital. Her heart stopped. She called back immediately, hands shaking. "Mrs. Whitman?" The nurse's voice was calm, professional. "Thomas is fine. We just wanted to update you on his feeding schedule." Eleanor's knees nearly buckled with relief. "He's okay. He's doing great, gaining weight, breathing well. We might be able to release him earlier than expected." Eleanor closed her eyes. "That's good. That's really good. When will you be back?" "Tomorrow. Maybe the day after." "Okay, we'll see you then." The call ended. Eleanor stood in the parking lot of a roadside diner, cold wind cutting through her jacket, and let herself cry for just 30 seconds. Then she wiped her face and got back on the bus. Montpelier appeared through afternoon fog. Small, quiet. The kind of town where strangers were noticed. Eleanor got off at the main terminal and walked to a car rental place 3 blocks away. Used her real license but paid cash for a compact sedan. The clerk gave her directions to Route 7. "Storage Solutions is about 20 minutes out," he said. "Not much else out there. You visiting someone?" "Something like that," Eleanor said. She drove carefully, following the GPS on her phone. The landscape changed as she left town. Fewer houses, more trees, roads that curved through hills covered in late winter snow. Eleanor passed a gas station, a closed vegetable stand, a church with a white steeple. Then nothing but woods. The GPS announced, "Your destination is ahead on the right." Eleanor slowed. Storage Solutions sat alone at the end of a gravel road. Long metal building divided into units, each with a rolling door and a padlock. No office, no attendants. Just a security camera pointed at the entrance and a keypad by the gate. Eleanor pulled into the small parking area. 2 other cars were there, both empty. She sat in the rental car, engine running, watching. Nothing moved. Eleanor checked her phone. Detective Warren had sent a text. "You there?" she replied. "Yes, going in now." "Be careful." Eleanor turned off the engine. The silence was immediate and complete. No traffic, no voices, just wind through bare branches. She got out of the car. Unit 247 was in the back corner. Eleanor walked slowly, her surgical incision aching with each step. The gravel crunched too loudly under her feet. The unit door was standard. Metal. Locked with a combination padlock. Marcus's note hadn't included a combination. Eleanor stared at the lock. Frustrated. Then she remembered something. Marcus's birthday. He'd always used it for passwords and codes. She'd teased him about it at the wedding. She tried. 08, 15, 78. The lock clicked open. Eleanor's hands trembled as she removed it and rolled up the door. The space inside was small. Maybe 10 feet by 10 feet. Dark except for the light spilling in from outside. Eleanor stepped inside. Boxes lined the walls, stacked neatly, labeled with dates. And in the center of the space, a filing cabinet. Eleanor approached it slowly. 3 drawers, all unlocked. She opened the top drawer. Files. Dozens of them. Bank statements, investment records, names she didn't recognize, transactions that made no sense. This was it. Evidence of Richard's crimes. Marcus had collected everything. Eleanor pulled out her phone to take photos. That's when she heard gravel crunching outside. Footsteps. Getting closer. Eleanor froze. Someone else was here. She moved toward the door, heart pounding. A shadow fell across the entrance. A man stepped into view. Tall, dark jacket. Face she recognized. The man from the hospital hallway. The one who'd photographed her son. He smiled. Hello, Eleanor. Been looking for you. Eleanor backed deeper into the unit. How did you find me? The man pulled something from his pocket. A small device. Blinking red light. GPS tracker. Under your car. We've been following you since you left the bus station. Eleanor's mind raced. The rental car. She'd been so careful, but not careful enough. What do you want? She asked. The man gestured at the filing cabinet. Same thing you want. Whatever Marcus hid here. Take it then. I don't care. Oh, it's not that simple. The man stepped inside, blocking the only exit. See, we need to make sure this is everything. That Marcus didn't hide copies somewhere else. And you're going to help us do that. Eleanor's hand found a box cutter on one of the shelves. She gripped it behind her back. I don't know what Marcus did with copies. Then we have a problem. The man took another step forward. Eleanor raised the box cutter. Stay back. He laughed. Really? That's your plan? I called the FBI before I came here. Eleanor lied. They know where I am. The man's smile faded slightly. No, you didn't. We've been monitoring your phone. You called the hospital. That's it. Eleanor's heart sank. They'd been listening to everything. The man pulled out a gun, not pointing it at her, just holding it. A reminder of who had power. Put down the box cutter, Eleanor. Let's talk like adults. Eleanor's hand shook. She thought of Thomas. Alone in the hospital, waiting for her to come back. She couldn't die here. Not like Marcus. Eleanor lowered the box cutter slowly. Good, the man said. Now we're going to go through every file in here. You're going to tell me what it means, where Richard is, where the rest of the money went. I don't know where Richard is. Then guess. The man stepped closer. And Eleanor realized with cold certainty he was going to kill her anyway, whether she helped or not. This wasn't negotiation. It was execution. She had one chance. Eleanor threw the box cutter at his face, not to hurt him, just to distract. Then she ran, past him through the door, into daylight. Behind her, the man shouted. A gunshot cracked through the air. Eleanor didn't stop. She ran toward her car, fumbling for keys. Another shot. Closer. Eleanor dove behind a truck parked 2 units down. Her phone was in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaking hands and dialed 911. Need help? She gasped. Storage Solutions, Route 7, someone's shooting. The man appeared around the truck. gun raised, aimed at her head. "Hang up," he said calmly. Eleanor looked at the phone. The call hadn't connected. No signal out here. She was completely alone. Eleanor stared at the gun. The man's finger rested on the trigger. "Stand up," he said quietly. Eleanor's legs wouldn't move. She pressed herself against the cold metal of the truck, phone still in her hand, screen showing, no service. "I said stand up." "Please," Eleanor whispered. "I have a son. He's only a week old." The man's expression didn't change. "I know, Thomas, 4 pounds 6 ounces. I've seen his photo, remember?" The reminder was deliberate. Cruel. Eleanor forced herself to stand, using the truck for support. Her incision screamed with pain. "Walk back to the unit," the man ordered. Eleanor's feet moved. Slowly. Every step felt like walking toward her own grave. They were halfway there when sirens wailed in the distance. The man's head snapped toward the sound. Eleanor saw her chance. She threw the phone at him and ran. Not toward her car this time. Toward the woods behind the storage facility. "The man shouted. Footsteps pounded behind her. Eleanor crashed through brush, branches tearing at her clothes. Her surgical wound felt like it was splitting open. She couldn't breathe. But she couldn't stop. The sirens grew louder. Behind her, the footsteps stopped. Eleanor risked a glance back. The man was gone. She collapsed against a tree, gasping, holding her stomach where pain radiated like fire. Police cars appeared on the gravel road, 3 of them, lights flashing. Eleanor stumbled out of the woods, waving her arms. "Here! I'm here!" Officers surrounded her immediately. Questions flew from all directions. "Are you injured? Where's the shooter? How many were there?" Eleanor could barely speak. "One man, dark jacket. He had a gun. He ran when he heard the sirens." An officer spoke into his radio. Others fanned out, searching. A female officer helped Eleanor sit down. "You're bleeding." Eleanor looked down. Her shirt was soaked with blood where her incision had torn open. "I need an ambulance," the officer called. Everything blurred after that. Paramedics. Questions. Someone wrapping her stomach. The officer asking if she could describe the man. "I saw him before," Eleanor managed. "At the hospital, he took pictures of my son." The officer's expression hardened. "We'll need a full statement." "Later," the paramedic interrupted. "She needs surgery. Now." They loaded Eleanor into the ambulance. As the doors closed, she saw Detective Warren arrive, running from an unmarked car. Their eyes met for just a second. His expression said what words couldn't. This just got much worse. The hospital in Montpelier was small. Emergency room staff worked quickly, efficiently. Eleanor's incision had partially reopened. Not life-threatening, but serious. They prepped her for repair surgery while asking questions she couldn't focus on. Her mind was on Thomas, 200 miles away, vulnerable. "My phone," Eleanor said urgently. "I need my phone." "After surgery," the nurse said gently. "No, now. Please. My son." The nurse hesitated, then retrieved Eleanor's phone. From her belongings. Eleanor dialed the NICU with shaking hands. "This is Eleanor Whitman, Thomas Whitman's mother. Is he okay?" The nurse on duty sounded confused. "He's fine, Mrs. Whitman. Why?" "Don't let anyone near him. No visitors. No one claiming to be family. Security only." "Mrs. Whitman, our security protocols." "Please." Eleanor's voice cracked. "Just promise me." A pause. "I'll notify security, but you should know we already have police presence here. They arrived an hour ago." Eleanor's relief was overwhelming. "Thank you." The anesthesiologist appeared. "Mrs. Whitman, we need to start." Eleanor let them take the phone. As the medication flowed into her IV, her last thought was of Thomas. Safe. For now. Eleanor woke in a recovery room. Late afternoon light filtered through blinds. Her stomach was wrapped in fresh bandages. Detective Warren sat in a chair beside her bed. "How long have you been here?" Eleanor asked groggily. 3 hours. Warren leaned forward. How are you feeling? Like I got shot at and ran through woods after major surgery. Warren almost smiled. The doctor said you were lucky. Another few hours and the internal bleeding could have been serious. Eleanor closed her eyes. Did you catch him? No. He disappeared. We found tire tracks leading out the back way. He planned his escape route ahead of time. Of course he did. Warren pulled out a tablet. I need you to look at some photos. See if you can identify him. He showed Eleanor a series of mugshots. Faces blurred together. Hard men with cold eyes. Then she saw him. That's him. 4th row, second from right. Warren's jaw tightened. You're sure? Positive. Warren put the tablet down. His name is Victor Reyes, former enforcer for a Boston crime family. Suspected in at least 6 murders, never convicted. Eleanor felt sick. And he's after me. He's after the money. You're just a means to an end. Warren's voice was gentle but firm. Eleanor, you can't go home. Not yet. It's not safe. I have to get back to Thomas. We'll arrange secure transport, but you need to. Understand, this isn't over. Victor escaped. The people he works for still want what Richard stole. Eleanor stared at the ceiling. Did you find anything useful in the storage unit? We're going through it now. Marcus collected extensive documentation, bank records, wire transfers, email, correspondence. It's enough to build a strong case against Richard, but not enough to find him. Warren was quiet. No, not yet. Eleanor's phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Her blood went cold. Warren. He saw her expression and took the phone. The message was simple. You have 24 hours. Warren's face darkened. He showed the message to an officer standing outside the door. Trace it. Now. The officer left quickly. Eleanor's hands trembled. They're not going to stop. No, Warren admitted. They're not. Then what do I do? Warren met her eyes. You do what Marcus did. You disappear. The words hung in the air between them. Disappear. Leave everything behind. Start over. New name, new city, new life. I can't do that, Eleanor said. Thomas needs stability, a home, family. Thomas needs a living mother. Eleanor turned away, tears burning her eyes. Warren stood. Think about it, we can arrange witness protection, new identities, financial support. For how long? Until Richard is found or the organization collapses. That could be years. Yes. Eleanor looked at him. Or I could give them what they want. Warren frowned. You don't know where the money is. No, but I know someone who might. Warren's expression shifted. Who? Eleanor took a breath. Richard's sister, Catherine. She lives in Portland. They were close growing up. If Richard told anyone where he was going, it would be her. We already interviewed her. She claimed she hadn't heard from him in months. She lied, Eleanor said simply. Catherine always protected Richard, even when he didn't deserve it. Warren considered this. If we approach her again, she'll know we're desperate. Then I approach her, alone, sister to sister. Absolutely not. It's too dangerous. Eleanor sat up despite the pain. Warren, these people know where I live, where my son sleeps. They followed me to Vermont and nearly killed me. Running won't make me safer. It'll just make me easier to hunt. Warren was quiet for a long moment. What are you proposing? Let me talk to Catherine, find out what she knows. If Richard contacted her, she might know where the money is. We give it back, and this ends. And if she doesn't know? Eleanor's voice was steady. Then we try something else. But at least we tried. Warren paced the small room. This is a terrible idea. I know. You just had surgery. Again. I know. These people have already tried to kill you once. I know. Warren stopped pacing. Why are you really doing this? Eleanor looked down at her bandaged stomach. Thought of Thomas in his incubator. Thought of Marcus dying in a staged accident. Because I'm tired of running. Tired of hiding, tired of being afraid. She met Warren's eyes. I want my life back. My son deserves a mother who isn't looking over her shoulder every second. Warren studied her face for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone. I'll arrange transport to Portland, but you wear a wire, and backup stays close. Agreed. Eleanor? Warren's voice was serious. If this goes wrong, if Catherine tips off Richard or the people he stole from, you could end up like Marcus. Eleanor nodded. I understand. But as Warren left the room to make arrangements, Eleanor stared at her phone. 24 hours. The clock was ticking, and somewhere out there Victor Reyes was waiting. Catherine Harper lived in a Victorian house on the east side of Portland. White paint, blue shutters, garden boxes that would bloom in spring. From the outside, it looked like the kind of home where nothing bad ever happened. Eleanor knew better. She stood on the sidewalk, Detective Warren in an unmarked car 2 houses down. The wire taped to her ribs felt cold against her skin. You ready? Warren's voice came through the tiny earpiece. Eleanor touched the button on her collar. Ready? She walked up. The stone path and rang the doorbell. Footsteps inside. A shadow behind the frosted glass. The door opened. Catherine stood there, older than Eleanor remembered. Mid-40s now, gray streaking her dark hair. Lines around her eyes that hadn't been there at the wedding. Eleanor? Catherine's surprise seemed genuine. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. Catherine glanced past Eleanor to the street. Is Richard with you? No. Something flickered across Catherine's face. Relief? Disappointment? Come in, she said quietly. The house smelled like coffee and lavender. Catherine led Eleanor to a living room filled with antique furniture and family photos. Richard's face smiled from several frames. Eleanor forced herself to look away. Can I get you anything? Catherine asked. Tea? Water? I'm fine. Catherine sat across from Eleanor, hands folded in her lap. You look exhausted. I just had a baby, a week ago. Catherine's eyes widened. Oh my God. Richard's. He doesn't know. Or if he does, he doesn't care. Catherine looked down. Eleanor, I'm so sorry. The way things ended between you two. That's not why I'm here. Catherine met her eyes. Waiting. Eleanor took a breath. Richard stole money. A lot of it. From dangerous people. And now they think I know where it is. Do you? No. But they don't believe me. Eleanor leaned forward. They've threatened my son, Catherine. Followed me. Shot at me. And they're not going to stop until they get their money back. Catherine's face went pale. Shot at you? 2 days ago. In Vermont. I barely escaped. Catherine stood abruptly, walking to the window. Her hands trembled. I don't know where Richard is, she said to the glass. I haven't heard from him in months. You're lying. Catherine spun around. Excuse me? You've always protected Richard, since we were kids probably, even when he didn't deserve it. Eleanor's voice was steady. He contacted you. I know he did. You don't know anything. Then prove me wrong. Let the FBI search your phone records, your emails, your bank accounts. Catherine's jaw tightened. Get out of my house. Catherine, please. I said get out. Eleanor stood slowly, pain radiating from her incision. They killed Marcus Chen, Richard's friend from college, staged it as a car accident. Catherine's expression flickered. And they'll kill me too, Eleanor continued. And then they'll come here, to you, because you're the only family Richard has left. Catherine's hands gripped the back of a chair. That's not my problem. It will be. Silence filled the room. Catherine walked to the fireplace, staring at a photo of her and Richard as children, happy, innocent, before everything went wrong. He called 3 weeks ago, she said finally. Eleanor's heart jumped. What did he say? That he was in trouble, that people were after him. He needed money for a bus ticket. Where was he going? Catherine shook her head. He wouldn't tell me. Said it was safer if I didn't know. But you sent him money. Catherine turned, tears in her eyes. He's my brother. What was I supposed to do? You were supposed to tell the truth. To who? The FBI? The people who want to kill him? Catherine's voice broke. He's not a bad person, Eleanor. He just made mistakes. Mistakes? Eleanor's voice rose. He stole millions, left me pregnant and alone, got Marcus killed. These aren't mistakes, Catherine. These are choices. Catherine wiped her eyes. I know that. But he's still my brother. Eleanor softened slightly. Did he say anything else? Anything that might help us find him? Catherine was quiet for a long moment, then. He mentioned a place, somewhere from our childhood. He said if things got really bad, he'd go there. Where? Our grandmother's cabin, in the White Mountains, New Hampshire. Eleanor felt Warren's presence through the earpiece. He was listening. Already running searches, probably. Does anyone else know about this cabin? Eleanor asked. Just family. It's been abandoned for years. No electricity, no running water. Could Richard survive there? Catherine nodded slowly. He used to love that place. Spent every summer there until he was 12. He knows those woods better than anyone. Eleanor pulled out her phone. I need the address. Catherine hesitated. Catherine, if I find Richard, I can end this. The FBI might offer him a deal if he returns the money. Witness. Protection. A chance to start over. And if they don't, then at least no one else dies. Catherine wrote the address on a piece of paper with shaking hands. There's no road access, she said. You have to hike in, about 3 miles from the nearest parking area. Eleanor took the paper. Thank you. Eleanor? Catherine's voice stopped her at the door. When you find him, tell him I'm sorry. For not being a better sister. For not stopping him sooner. Eleanor nodded and left. Outside, Warren was already on his phone, coordinating with other agents. Eleanor got in the car. We're going. To New Hampshire, Warren said. I've got a team mobilizing now. How long to get there? 4 hours, maybe 5. Eleanor checked her phone. 18 hours left on the deadline. They might actually make it. Eleanor, Warren said carefully. You know this could be a trap, right? Catherine could have warned Richard you were coming. I know. And even if she didn't, Richard might not be alone. The people he stole from could already be there. Eleanor stared out the window at the passing houses. Normal lives. Normal problems. What choice do we have? She asked quietly. Warren didn't answer. Because they both knew the truth. This was their only lead. Their only chance. They drove through the afternoon into evening. Eleanor dozed fitfully, dreaming of Thomas, his tiny hands, his quiet breathing. She woke to Warren shaking her shoulder. We're here. They'd stopped at a ranger station at the base of the White Mountains. 2 other FBI vehicles were already there. 6 agents total, all armed. A map was spread across the hood of one car. The cabin is here, Warren pointed. 3.2 miles northeast, heavily wooded, 1 approach path, which means 1 escape route. Another agent added. Warren looked at Eleanor. You stay here with Agent Morrison. We'll bring Richard out. No, Eleanor said firmly. I'm coming with you. Eleanor, he might run if he sees agents, but if he sees me, his ex-wife, mother of his child, he might listen. Warren's expression was conflicted. This isn't safe. Nothing about this is safe. Eleanor met his eyes. But I need to face him. I need to hear why he did this. Why he threw everything away. Warren looked at the other agents. They exchanged glances. She wears a vest, one said. Stays in the middle of the formation. If shooting starts, she gets behind cover immediately. Agreed, Eleanor said. They outfitted her with a bulletproof vest and a flashlight. The hike began at 9 p.m. Single file through dark woods, no talking, just the crunch of leaves and the occasional snap of branches. Eleanor's incision ached with every step, but she pushed through the pain. Thomas was waiting for her. This ended tonight. They hiked for an hour. Then Warren raised his fist. Everyone stopped. Through the trees, Eleanor could see it. A small cabin, dark, silent. smoke rising from the chimney. Someone was inside. Warren signaled the team to spread out surrounding the cabin. Eleanor stayed with him as they approached the front door. 20 feet away, Warren called out, "Richard Whitman, FBI, come out with your hands up." Silence. "Richard, we know you're in there." Still nothing. Warren nodded to an agent who moved forward and kicked the door open. Agents poured inside, flashlights sweeping the darkness. "Clear, clear, clear." Warren entered with Eleanor behind him. The cabin was one room, a fireplace with dying embers, a cot in the corner, canned food on a shelf, but no Richard. Eleanor's heart sank. Then she saw it, a note on the table. She picked it up with shaking hands and read aloud, "Eleanor, I'm sorry for everything, but I can't come back. Tell Thomas I loved him, even though I never met him. The money is gone, spent, used, disappeared. There's nothing left to return. I'm disappearing too. Don't look for me. R." Eleanor stared at the words. The money was gone, all of it, which meant this wasn't over. The people Richard stole from would never believe her. They'd keep coming. Forever. Warren's phone rang. He answered, listened, his face going white. "What?" Eleanor asked. Warren lowered the phone slowly. "There was an incident at the hospital 30 minutes ago." Eleanor's world tilted. "Thomas, he's fine. Security stopped them. But someone tried to access the NICU." Eleanor couldn't breathe. "Victor Reyes?" Warren asked. "We don't know yet. They're reviewing footage." Eleanor grabbed Warren's arm. "We have to go back now." "Eleanor, we're 5 hours away." "Now!" The drive back was a blur of headlights and fear. Warren pushed the car to 90 miles per hour on empty highways, lights flashing, siren cutting through the darkness. Eleanor sat rigid in the passenger seat, phone pressed to her ear. The NICU nurse answered on the third ring. "Mrs. Whitman, Thomas is safe, I promise." "What happened?" "A man tried to enter the unit. Said he was Thomas's uncle. When security asked for ID, he became aggressive. They escorted him out." Eleanor's voice shook. "Did they arrest him?" "He left before police arrived, but we have him on camera. Detective Warren's team is already reviewing the footage. I need to see my son." "We're here, Mrs. Whitman. We're not leaving him alone for a second." The call ended. Eleanor stared at her reflection in the dark window. "This is my fault," she whispered. Warren glanced at her. "How is this your fault?" "I left him. I should have stayed at the hospital, protected him myself." "Eleanor, you were trying to end this. That's not wrong. But it didn't work." Her voice cracked. "The money's gone. Richard's gone. And now, they're going after my baby because they have nothing else." Warren was quiet for a moment, then, "We'll figure this out." "How?" "I don't know yet. But we will." They drove on through the night. 2 hours passed. Eleanor's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her hands trembled as she answered. "What?" Victor Reyes's voice was calm, almost pleasant. "Quite a night you're having." Eleanor's blood turned to ice. "If you touch my son, I'm not going to touch him. Yet." A pause. "But I could have. If I'd really wanted to. Your FBI friends aren't as good as they think." Warren was already signaling to other agents trying to trace the call. "What do you want?" Eleanor asked. "You know what I want. You've always known. The money's gone. Richard spent it all." Victor laughed. "Nice try. But we both know that's not true." "It is true. We found his note. He said—" "He lied," Victor interrupted. "Richard's been lying since the beginning. The money's hidden somewhere, and you're going to help me find it. I don't know where it is. Then you'll figure it out." His voice hardened. "You have until sunrise, 6 hours. After that, I stop being patient. You can't expect me to—" "Sunrise, Eleanor. Or your son learns what happens when people don't cooperate." The line went dead. Eleanor lowered the phone slowly. Warren cursed under his breath. "We couldn't trace it. Burner phone. Probably already destroyed." Eleanor stared ahead at the dark highway. 6 hours. We'll have you at the hospital in 90 minutes, then we regroup, figure out our next move. There is no next move. Eleanor's voice was hollow. Unless we find the money, Thomas will never be safe. Warren's jaw tightened. We'll put him in protective custody, move him to a secure location. These people won't find him. They found me in Vermont. They followed me across state lines. They walked into a hospital with security cameras and armed guards. Eleanor turned to Warren. They'll find him. Eventually. The truth hung between them. No protection lasted forever. They arrived at the hospital at 2 a.m. Eleanor ran through the corridors, Warren behind her, until she reached the NICU. Security had been tripled. Armed officers at every entrance, ID checks for everyone, but they let Eleanor through immediately. Thomas was sleeping peacefully in his incubator, unaware of the danger, unaware of anything, except warmth and milk and the gentle sounds of machines monitoring his tiny body. Eleanor pressed her hand against the glass. "I'm here, baby," she whispered. "Mommy's here." A nurse approached. "Would you like to hold him?" Eleanor nodded, unable to speak. They brought Thomas to her, wrapped in blankets. So small, so fragile, so perfect. Eleanor held him close, breathing in his scent, feeling his warmth. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I brought this into your life." Thomas made a small sound. Not quite a cry, just awareness. Eleanor rocked him gently, tears sliding down her face. Warren watched from the doorway, his expression pained. An agent approached him with a tablet. They spoke in low voices. After a moment, Warren came to Eleanor. "Can we talk?" Eleanor looked up, still holding Thomas. "What is it?" "We reviewed the security footage. The man who tried to enter, it wasn't Victor Reyes." "Who was it?" Warren showed her the tablet. The image was grainy but clear enough. Eleanor's breath caught. "That's Marcus's cousin, David. I met him at the wedding." Warren nodded. "We ran his information. He works in finance. Has connections to several of the people Richard stole from. You think he's involved?" "I think he knew what Marcus was doing, collecting evidence. And when Marcus died, he tried to finish what his cousin started." Eleanor's mind raced. Marcus trusted him. Maybe told him where the money really is. That's what I'm thinking. Can we find him? Warren's expression was grim. "We're trying. He's not at his apartment, not at his office. He disappeared right after the hospital incident." Eleanor looked down at Thomas. "Then we have nothing." "Not nothing." Warren pulled up another image on the tablet. Marcus's storage unit. "We finished cataloging everything, and we found something interesting." The image showed a page from a notebook, handwritten numbers and coordinates. "What is this?" Eleanor asked. "We're not sure, but these coordinates point to a location in upstate New York, rural area. Nothing there according to maps." Eleanor studied the numbers. "You think the money's there?" "Maybe, or maybe it's another dead end." Warren met her eyes. "But it's the only lead we have left." Eleanor looked at Thomas, sleeping peacefully in her arms. Then at the clock on the wall. 4 hours until sunrise. "How far is upstate New York?" she asked quietly. 3 hours, give or take." Eleanor kissed Thomas's forehead and handed him back to the nurse. "What are you doing?" Warren asked. "What I have to do." Eleanor stood, ignoring the pain in her incision. "Take me to New York." "Eleanor, you just got your son back, and I'll lose him forever if I don't end this." Her voice was steady now, determined. "You said it yourself. These people won't stop. Not until they get what they want or everyone's dead." Warren studied her face. "You know this could be a trap." "I know. Marcus might have left those coordinates to mislead anyone who found them." "I know. And even if we find something, there's no guarantee Victor will honor any deal." "I know." Eleanor met his eyes. "But I have to try. For Thomas. For myself. For everyone Richard destroyed." Warren was quiet for a long moment, then he nodded. Then he, "Okay, but we do this smart, full tactical team. Air support, no chances." "Agreed." They left the hospital 15 minutes later. Eleanor looked back once at the NICU windows. Thomas was safe there, protected by nurses and guards and cameras. But safety was temporary. Freedom required action. Our coordinates led to farmland in the Adirondacks. Abandoned fields, collapsed barns. No houses for miles. The FBI convoy arrived just before dawn, headlights cutting through morning mist. Warren studied the map. According to Marcus's notes, we're looking for an old well house, probably underground. Spread out, another agent ordered. Teams of 2. Radio if you find anything. Eleanor stayed with Warren as they searched. The property was overgrown. Thick brush, fallen trees. Nature reclaiming what humans had abandoned. 20 minutes passed. Then, got something. Warren and Eleanor ran toward the voice. An agent stood near a depression in the ground, partially covered by rotted boards. Well house, he confirmed. And it's been accessed recently. Boards have been moved. Warren pulled his weapon. Everyone on alert. This could still be occupied. They removed the boards carefully. Beneath was a wooden door with a padlock. A new padlock. Someone had been here recently. Warren shot the lock off and pulled the door open. Stairs led down into darkness. Warren descended first, flashlight sweeping the space. Eleanor followed, heart pounding. The well house was actually a small cellar, stone walls, dirt floor, and in the corner, a metal box. Warren approached it carefully, checking for traps. None. He opened the lid. Inside were bundles of cash, hundreds of them, stacked neatly, bound with rubber bands. Holy! The agent behind them breathed. Warren pulled out a bundle. This is it. This is the money Richard stole. Eleanor stared at the cash. Millions of dollars. Hidden underground. Waiting. Marcus found it, she said quietly. He knew where Richard hid it all along. Then why didn't he tell anyone? Warren asked. Eleanor thought about Marcus. His fear, his final warning. Because he knew if the wrong people found out, they'd kill him. Her voice was barely a whisper. He was trying to protect everyone. Wait until it was safe to reveal the location. But he ran out of time. Warren finished. Eleanor nodded. A phone rang. Not Eleanor's. Not Warren's. From inside the metal box. Warren carefully moved bundles of cash aside. At the bottom was a burner phone. Ringing. Warren looked at Eleanor. Answer it. Eleanor picked up the phone with trembling hands. Hello? Victor Reyes's voice filled her ear. Good morning, Eleanor. Beautiful sunrise, isn't it? Eleanor's blood went cold. How did you know you'd find it? Victor chuckled. Because I've been following you since you left the hospital. GPS tracker on Warren's car this time. Very sloppy, Detective. Warren cursed and signaled his team. I'm outside, Victor continued. With 6 men, all armed, all very motivated. Now here's what's going to happen. You're going to bring me that box, all of it. And then you're going to walk away. No tricks, no FBI heroics. And if I refuse? Eleanor asked. Then we burn the farmhouse down, with all of you inside, and after that, we visit Thomas. Eleanor stood in the underground cellar, phone pressed to her ear, surrounded by the money that had destroyed her life. You have 2 minutes, Victor said. Then I start shooting agents. Warren shook his head urgently, mouthed the word no. But Eleanor was already moving. She grabbed the metal box, heavy, awkward, but manageable. Eleanor, don't, Warren said. We have backup coming. There's no time. Eleanor started toward the stairs. And he's right. If we wait, people die. Warren grabbed her arm. If you go out there, you might die. But Thomas will live. Eleanor met his eyes. That's all that matters. She climbed the stairs into gray morning light. The farmland stretched before her. Empty. Quiet. Then figures emerged from the mist. 6 men. Armed, spread in a semicircle. And in the center, Victor Reyes. Put the box down, he called. Walk away. Eleanor set the box on. The ground 20 feet from the well house. It's all here, she said. Everything Richard stole. Take it and leave us alone. Victor approached slowly, gun drawn, but pointed at the ground. Behind Eleanor, FBI agents positioned themselves inside the well house. Weapons ready, waiting for a clear shot. But Victor was smart. He kept Eleanor between himself and the agents. Human shield. He reached the box and opened it. His expression didn't change as he examined the contents. Satisfied? Eleanor asked. Victor pulled out his phone and took photos of the cash. Sent them to someone. Waited. 30 seconds passed. Victor's phone buzzed. He read the message. Then he looked at Eleanor. There's a problem. Eleanor's stomach dropped. What problem? This is only half the money. Where's the rest? That's everything. Marcus hid it all. Marcus hid half, Victor interrupted, and Richard stole 12 million. This box contains 6. Eleanor's mind raced. Maybe Richard spent the rest. He didn't. Victor stepped closer. He hid it somewhere else. And you're going to tell me where? I don't know. Victor raised his gun, pointed it at Eleanor's head. Warren shouted from the well house. Stand down, you're surrounded. Victor didn't flinch. Then I guess we all die today. His finger tightened on the trigger. Eleanor closed her eyes. Thought of Thomas, his tiny hands, his quiet breathing. I'm sorry, baby. I tried. A gunshot cracked through the morning air. But Eleanor felt nothing. She opened her eyes. Victor was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, blood spreading across his jacket. Behind him stood David Chen, Marcus's cousin, holding a rifle, aimed at Victor's men. Nobody move, David said calmly. Victor's men froze. FBI agents poured out of the well house, weapons drawn, shouting commands. On the ground, hands behind your heads. Within seconds, all 6 men were subdued. Victor writhed on the ground, pressing his hand against the gunshot wound. David lowered the rifle and looked at Eleanor. I'm sorry I couldn't do this sooner, he said quietly. I had to wait until they showed themselves, make sure I had proof of their crimes. Eleanor stared at him. You've been following us this whole time? David nodded. Since Vermont. I knew Victor would eventually reveal himself if he thought he was close to the money. Warren approached, weapon still drawn. David. Chen? Yes. You're under arrest for… Actually, David interrupted calmly. I'm a federal witness, working with the Treasury Department. Have been for 6 months. He pulled out a badge. Warren's expression shifted. You're undercover? Was undercover. My cover's blown now. David looked at the captured men, but it was worth it to bring down their entire operation. Eleanor's legs gave out. She sat heavily on the ground, adrenaline leaving her system all at once. The other 6 million, she said weakly. Where is it? David knelt beside her. Safe. Marcus moved it before he died. Transferred it to an account controlled by the Treasury Department. We've been using it as bait ever since. So all of this was a trap, David confirmed. To catch the people Richard stole from. To end their organization once and for all. Eleanor looked at Victor, now handcuffed and bleeding. Is it over? She asked quietly. David met her eyes. Yes, it's over. Paramedics arrived, police vehicles, more FBI agents. Eleanor sat on the tailgate of an ambulance while a medic checked her incision. You're lucky, he said. Could have torn completely. You need rest. Eleanor almost laughed. Rest. When had she last rested? Warren sat beside her. Hell of a night. Hell of a month, Eleanor corrected. He smiled slightly. David's testimony, combined with Marcus's evidence, will put away dozens of people, the entire fraud network, Richard's former partners, everyone. What about Richard? Warren was quiet. We'll keep looking, but honestly, he's probably dead. People like him don't get to disappear cleanly. Eleanor thought about that. Felt less than she expected. No grief, no relief, just emptiness. Can I go home now? She asked. To see Thomas? Absolutely. They drove. Back to the hospital as the sun rose fully. Golden light across winter landscape. Eleanor watched it through the window and felt something shift inside her. Not happiness. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of peace. The NICU was quiet when Eleanor arrived. Thomas was awake, eyes open, looking at nothing and everything. The nurse smiled. "He's been waiting for you." Eleanor lifted him carefully, held him close. "I'm sorry I left," she whispered. "But it's over now. You're safe. We're both safe." Thomas made a small sound, not crying, just acknowledging. Eleanor kissed his forehead. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to imagine the future. A small apartment somewhere quiet. A job. Stability. Normal life. It wouldn't be easy. She was a single mother with no money, no family support, no husband. But she'd survived worse. 3 months later, Eleanor sat in a different hospital, private room, comfortable, paid for by the Witness Protection Program. Thomas was bigger now, almost 10 pounds, no longer premature, just a regular baby boy. She fed him while watching morning news. The anchor reported, "In conclusion, prosecutors say this is the largest financial fraud case in Massachusetts history. 12 defendants have been sentenced to a combined 160 years in prison." Eleanor turned off the TV. She didn't need to hear more. Detective Warren visited that afternoon. "How's he doing?" he asked, looking at Thomas. "Growing, strong, happy." Eleanor smiled. "We're good." Warren handed her an envelope. "Final payment from the Victim Restitution Fund. Should cover your first year's expenses while you get settled." Eleanor opened it. A check. More money than she'd seen in months. Not a fortune, but enough. "Thank you," she said. "For everything." Warren nodded. "You know, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met." Eleanor looked at Thomas. "I just did what any mother would do." "No," Warren said gently. "Most people would have run, hidden, let someone else solve it. You stood up, fought back, ended it." After he left. Eleanor stood at the window with Thomas in her arms. The city sprawled below, full of people living normal lives, normal problems. She was one of them now. No one hunting her, no one threatening her child, just Eleanor and Thomas. Starting over. "What do you think?" she asked him. "Ready to go? Home?" Thomas yawned. Eleanor laughed, her first real laugh in months. "Yeah, me too." 6 years passed. Eleanor worked as a bookkeeper for a small nonprofit. Nothing fancy, but honest work. Good work. Thomas attended kindergarten at a public school 3 blocks from their apartment. He was bright, curious, happy. He asked about his father sometimes. Eleanor told him the truth, that his father had made bad choices, hurt people, disappeared. "Will he ever come back?" Thomas asked once. Eleanor considered the question carefully. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But even if he does, we'll be okay. We're strong, both of us." Thomas nodded, accepting this. On a Tuesday in October, Eleanor received a letter. No return address. Postmarked from Canada. Inside was a single page. Richard's handwriting. "Eleanor, I know you probably hate me. You should. I destroyed everything. But I want you to know that leaving was the hardest thing I've ever done. Not because I loved you, though I did in my way, but because I knew I'd never meet our child. Never hold him. Never tell him I'm sorry for the life I gave him. I'm not asking forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want you to know that somewhere in whatever's left of my conscience, I think about him, about you, about what could have been. I hope you found peace. R." Eleanor read the letter twice. Then she did something unexpected. She wrote back, not to Richard, to herself. A letter she'd carry in her wallet. Words she'd remember. On hard days. "Dear Eleanor, you survived. You protected your son. You rebuilt your life from nothing. You are stronger than anyone who hurt you. You are braver than anyone who doubted you. And you are enough. Always enough. Love. The woman you became." She folded both letters together and put them in a box at the back of her closet. Then she went to pick up Thomas from school. He ran to her when the bell rang, backpack bouncing, smile bright. "Mom, guess what? We learned about butterflies today. Did you know they start as caterpillars?" Eleanor took his hand. "I did know that. Pretty amazing. Pretty, right? Yeah, they're totally different after. Like new creatures." Eleanor smiled. "Yes, like new creatures." They walked home through autumn leaves, Thomas chattering about butterflies and science, and his friend Maya, who could already read chapter books. Normal conversation. Normal day. Normal life. Everything Eleanor had fought for. Everything that mattered. That night, after Thomas fell asleep, Eleanor stood in his doorway watching him breathe. 6 years old, safe, loved, unaware of the darkness that had almost consumed them both. She thought about Richard's letter, his regret, his absence, and she felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness, not exactly, but release. Richard had made his choices. She'd made hers. His led to exile and guilt. Hers led to this moment. This child. This quiet peace. Eleanor closed Thomas's door softly and walked to her own room. Tomorrow she'd wake early, make breakfast, pack lunch, walk Thomas to school, go to work, come home, help with homework, read bedtime stories. Tomorrow would be beautifully, perfectly ordinary. And Eleanor understood finally, after everything she'd survived, everything she'd lost, everything she'd rebuilt, that ordinary was the greatest victory of all. She turned off the light and slept without fear for the first time in 7 years.